Hello, Johnnie Roberts. How are you today, sir?
Doing good. How you doing, Mike?
I am great. It's a wonderful day. It's getting chilly here where I am, and Christmas is coming, so I'm super excited.
It is, man. You got everything decorated yet or what?
It's getting there little by little. My office is still putrid. We have to still have time to get the lights up in my office, and people are in my neighborhood putting lights on their houses, and it's starting to look a lot like Christmas. Oh, look at you, that
You know
Charlie
what
Brown.
this is?
It looks like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
It's a Charlie Brown Christmas tree right here, man.
I love it.
Is that not the best Christmas special of all time?
It really is. I told my
So
wife the other day I can't wait to watch it.
if you're not on YouTube, you can't see this, but it is a literal Charlie Brown Christmas tree right here
I
before
get
they
it.
decorated it. So
Yep.
we love it. My
Uh,
kids got me that, a few years ago. So
Well, that's great. All right, so here's the topic that I want to talk about today. As we think about retirement planning, because you're a retirement planning expert, specialist, you've written a book on it, you've got a podcast, you talk about it all day, every day. That would kind of lean me to think that I probably don't need to talk with you until I get probably close to retirement, 5 years from retirement or something like that. Is when should somebody reach out to you?
I think, well, being in this business for so long, I've dealt with folks on life insurance side of things, early income planning. Man, I always tell people, have your kids call me, have your grandkids get a hold of me, because we always know that the younger you start planning for certain parts of retirement, the better.
Right.
We kind of talked last week about, you know, who's your dance partner that brought you there. So on this general concept, yeah, you have this person that's helping you out with this phase in your life. But before you get to retirement and you got to deal with some of these big tax bombs, we try to teach people, man, you can prepare for that early. Now, if you're coming to see me and you're like 65, we can't go back and pretend like you're 35. But we never turn anybody away. We always encourage people 30, 25, whatever it may be. Grandparents want to set something up for their grandkids. There are so many new vehicles and tools out there right now that can help you during these years. So when you do get to that retirement age, some of these things that are huge issues for a lot of folks that they didn't realize all this time can be much more minimized for yourself. Taxes is a big part of it. Life insurance is another part of it, right? Because we're going to talk about that a little bit next week, and we've talked about it in the past. But remember, life insurance, if you wait till you're 65 because you realize, oh, I lost my job, I left my job, retired, now I ain't got no insurance anymore.
Right.
What am I going to do? Well, it's a lot more money at 65 than it is if you were 35 or 30. You know what I
Right.
mean? So that planning out, even though there's a huge chance you're not going to die at 35 or 44, you're in the very small percentage that something like that will happen. But once again, it's not just about protecting that time, it's about planning long term.
Yeah.
So we need to take young age, early working age planning just as important as farther down the road. So, man, anytime we can see somebody that's younger, we're kind of excited because we feel like we can make it a difference
Which is
way earlier on to help them
yeah,
down the road.
it's really interesting because it just struck me that we last episode we talked about retirement dance partners, right? And a lot of people would say, well, if they're young, they're 30, 40, 50, they're well, I've got a financial advisor, right? And if you'd ask the question, well, why do you work? Why are you working with somebody? What are you trying to do? And they're like, well, I'm planning for my retirement. Well, why wouldn't you choose to work with somebody who's an expert at retirement planning to give you counsel when you're young to make sure you are making the best decisions year after year after year, decade after decade, so that when you hit retirement, you may have most everything already set up? Because as Stephen Covey would say in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that I read 35 years ago, begin with the end in mind. So somebody should
Yeah.
reach out to you,
Wow.
right?
Wow. That was good. Absolutely.
I think that's great. I think you should surround yourself with retirement planning experts like Johnny when you're young, because he knows what's going to happen. I mean, you and I both know, and you've told me stories like this, and you probably could tell me another. Somebody who comes to you and they've got $1.5 million saved up for retirement, but because of taxes and things of that nature that they didn't plan for properly, they might only have $100,000 by the time Taxman Max gets his hand in it, or something like that. Have you heard, met with people like that?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. Because people don't realize, once again, during what we're told, if I were to come to you, Mike, and you were to ask 20 people that are 55, 60, and go back and say, what did Johnny or Mike, your grandparent or parents, tell you when you started working that you need to do for retirement? The one word they all say is save.
Right.
Just save money, right? So our viewpoint of retirement from an earliest age is all about money, which you got to have. That's one of the vehicles, but there's other tools that you've got to add to that. And if you can add it younger, it makes that money more valuable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like you just said, $1.5 million, if you don't plan it and you haven't had a chance to plan it from early on, it's not really worth $1.5 million many times because of where it's at, what vehicle it's in. It's really worth 800,000 or nine hundred
Yeah.
thousand or 1,000 or $1 million or something like that. So if we start planning early enough and you get involved in that kind of stuff, you can make your dollars more valuable than folks who maybe haven't done that earlier on, you know.
Yeah.
So that should be our goal. Yeah, money's part of it, but add a few things onto that even early on, to make your retirement successful. Money does not equal retirement.
Right.
Money is one of the tools to help you retire,
Yeah.
but start,
But
start accumulating those things early on.
yeah, and I think that's really, really key because if you think about it, I remember a lot of the commercials that were a few years ago, right? Like follow the green line and how much is in your wallet and all these things that it's you have to accumulate and save, 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 save. So you have this monster nest egg when you retire. Because I think what they know that they don't tell you is that Taxman Max is going to take a chunk of it, and that's why you need such a big nest egg versus working with Johnny and planning for retirement from an early age and putting in place specific strategies that will help you mitigate and lower taxes, increase income, have tax-free income sometimes, and leverage Social Security at the right time. All of that, those are decisions that need to be made, but you influence them today. And what the reality is you might not need $1.5 million. You might be able to actually retire really well with 750,000 if it's structured properly over time. Those are just numbers, right? I'm just pulling numbers off my head. But conceptually, I'm in the ballpark at least, aren't I?
Yeah, because once again, always have this in your mindset, not dollar amount, but dollar value. So $1 million is an easy number, but just by doing the regular routine that most folks do today, save 401k, IRA concept, which is all good to do. That is all part of the plan.
Mhm.
That $1 million is really worth when you retire 700,000 or something like that, 750. You know what I mean? There's a lot of taxes involved. But with
Yeah.
planning, if I were to get to where it's like 800 or not 850 or $900,000, yeah, it seems like it's less than a million. It could be more still, but I'm just saying $900,000 of money that isn't going to get involved and have a business partner as tax man involved in your life. The value of it, even though it sounds less, the value of it is a lot more. And that's what we really need to focus on. Not just, oh, I've saved so much, I got all this money, but what is it worth?
Right.
Inflation has changed, taxes have changed, tax law, you know what I mean? So we need to, if we start that early, to complement IRAs and things like that, we also have other things, other vehicles we can begin to plan for that now is going to help us all along with Social Security, taxes, and all this kind of stuff, Medicare, income streams, all those things we need during retirement. Believe it or not, you can begin to chop those down when you're
Mhm.
25, 30, 35, 40. Begin to
Yeah.
do those things and start hitting those a little bit with a hammer to have that breakthrough when you retire. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? To get you through that, get you through
Yeah.
where you need to be at. So
Absolutely.
it's like years and years of if you're trying to break through something. You ever seen Shawshank Redemption
Oh wow, long
movie?
time
Tim
ago.
Robbins.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tim Robbins trying to break out of prison, not break out, but he was innocently convicted. But what he's trying, his character, he has a little pick, and for 20 years, every night he would begin to pick at that wall in his little jail cell. It was all takes place in the 1920s or 30s. But anyway, picks away at that for 20 years. And they always put a poster in front of it. And he's gone one morning. They can't find him. So they go in there like, what in the world happened? Well, he'd take these little picks that he would use to shape metals or little rocks and stuff. And when they pulled that poster down, there was a hole this big that he crawled right through. Could
Yeah.
you imagine if he wanted to break out and never got, he'd be trying to hammer and sledgehammer that at one time to get a hole like that.
Yeah.
But because he chopped it away every year, a little bit at a time, when he got to time to where this is, I mean, I don't want you to break out of prison or nothing, but when he was ready to get out of there, you know, he was all set because it was years of little hits, little chopping, little things like that to knock it down. So when you retire, you got to try and figure out, man, I got to break through this wall. I got a sledgehammer. Hopefully I can get through it. It's very hard
Yeah.
the longer you wait. So early on, man, let's start chopping away a little bit at a time. So now I'm retired. Guess what? I've got a nice hole I can get right through to get me where I need to be at, you know? So
Yep. I love it.
don't break
So
out of prison, nobody
that's
go to
right.
prison first of all. But
That's
if
right.
you get in there, I'm not trying to tell you to do that. It's just,
That's
you know,
right.
analogy.
Well, people need to I think what we take out of this, the big idea is to reach out and talk to you early. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, it doesn't matter. Reach out to Johnny, because planning for tomorrow today is probably the best thing you could ever do. And I know you've got a lot of strategies, but it all starts with a conversation. So if you go to Johnny's website, retireatnewheights.com, that'll get you to a place where you can get a free copy of his book. Read that. And while you're on that page, why don't you just schedule a call with him? And between the time you get the book and you meet with Johnny, you'll have time to read the book and sit down and have these discussions around retirement planning. And I would love, Johnny, for your calendar to get full of appointments with 30-year-old guys and gals who are looking down the road 50 years to go, I want to make sure that I've got a big hole to walk through very easily. So, brother, thanks for what you do. Thanks for being here. And thanks for doing this podcast to really bring a great education to a lot of people.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.